Down here in Cedar Lake, down past Panther Point, Panther Lake, this area down here has been very good, very solid. Again, we've had a lot of fluctuating tide that's been in and out of our bay system here in San Antonio, up here on the Panther Point shoreline, down to Twin, Cedar, that area there. You know, the bite frames, we've had a couple of cold fronts that's come through. One significant, one not so much significant. They're starting to line up now. We're starting to see one. It looks like about every week now, or every 7 to 8 days. It looks like one's kind of work its way down in here. Again, none of them are like super big or anything like that, but those are coming. I'm pretty sure that we will have those probably either later this month, especially December. But these next 2 months, the artificial game will begin to continue to do nothing but get better and better and better as these cold fronts come in here. It'll begin to push bait out of our system. We have a lot of migratory baits that come in the springtime and leave during the wintertime or our fall, as they want to stay with that warmer water as that tidal flow begins to flow into here and then back out. And that's all based on what our cold fronts do. So the main thing that's really been going on with our cold fronts is it changes our fishing pattern for just maybe a day or two, maybe 3 days, depending on where you're at, what estuary you're fishing in, and how it sets up for you. And then it starts to come back to the way the pattern was before the front that pushes in here. A couple of these areas here, like in Cedar, what I've talked about, and Twin up there, you know, that water fluctuates in there. It's nice, muddy bottom. And again, this is the areas that you're really going to want to start to look and target is your muddier bottoms, your grass, clump shell, edges, pinch points. Those are stuff that you're really going to want to start to look for. Guts, channels that are smaller, you know, adjacent to a flat of some sort. That's what you're going to really want to start looking for, whether it's if you're fishing these areas or if you're fishing some areas that you may know. Those are the kinds of things target-wise that you want to be in. Again, number one thing that you always want to find is you want to have bait working in the area that you're trying to fish, trying to incorporate a major and a minor. And that's where I was going with all this before I started kind of jabbering just a bit, is the majors and minors and the bite frames in and around these cold fronts, either beforehand, after the front is passed through, we got a little bit higher pressure in the system. The bite frames have been very productive. Anything in between those for us artificially has been a grind. We've had to really work to find and scratch out fish in between the bite frames. And if you'll pay attention to what your bait's doing and how active it gets and what it does, it can kind of indicate to you what the bite may be fixing to take place. You pick up a few more opportunities that are coming in the areas that you're working. The things that we've been throwing primarily, again, we're in a transition days, headed toward a full moon. So you want to downsize your baits, and that's primarily what we've been doing for about the past 10 days, has been throwing smaller baits in general. You know, original size down south, burner shads, the knock and tail in both the 4-inch and the 3 1/4 inch. Those have been the ticket. They've been the main things that we've been throwing. Little Johns and Marker 54 jerk shrimps as well. Those are the other two that we've been throwing a lot of. Very productive baits, productive at different times. So you want to make sure that you have a variety of baits in your box that you can switch to or move. But again, what I've been saying though, the main things that's been happening, especially as these fronts have pushed in here, you got a high pressure that's going to be behind it. Now we've got a full moon that's in front of us, and it looks like there's another, maybe a small front that may be pushing in toward later in the week. It's something that you want to pay attention to, because if you get the double whammy there where you get a high pressure and a full moon, it's going to put it's going to be tough fishing during that time frame. So you're really going to want to be in and around bait structure, whether it be grass, whether it be an edge, whether it be some type of clump shell over a muddy flat, in a cut of some sort, like these areas here, up here. As you go toward Cottonwood, you got these little back lake mouths and these draws that come in here. You've got deeper guts that are come in there. You can get back in some of these back lakes and you can work these. Topwater's been pretty good. It hadn't been super great. We've been getting, a few swirls, a few takes, a few follows, but it can be a good indicator bait for you. But again, the main thing that you're really going to want to push and really want to throw is these smaller profile baits. Work these areas, again, concentrate on your majors and minors and incorporate those into your fishing days so you can locate and continue to catch fish. Over here in Carlos, closest to the ICW, the little point that works out and around this way here toward Dunham Island, all this back in here. You got the deeper cut that runs through there. That's the old ICW. Once upon a time, that was where stuff came through there before they built the new one or dug the new one. But that whole area back in here, you got deep water, you got shale on both sides, you got mud, you've got everything that you want as we transitioning toward these cooler days, cooler months ahead. These are some of the areas that you really want to kind of target in and around up here in Carlos, down in the shoreline. You've got all different types of structure that's in this. You've got some scattered shale that's in here. You've got deeper potholes. You've got shallower potholes. You've got a great shoreline to work. You've got sand and clump shale on the very north end of it. If you come up and around this way here as you go through Cedar Dugout, that area there, if you've ever fished that, there's some super, super thick mud that's really soft. So if you're going to get out and wade that, it really needs to be careful in that particular area up there on that point, because that's stuff that you can sink up to your knee, maybe a little bit further up. So that's definitely one of those areas that you want to have at least two people with you. So make sure that you got a buddy system or some sort from a safety standpoint, so you don't get yourself stuck and kind of in a bad situation. But that said, all this area in here, you got great grass in here. You've got a couple of scattered shale pads that are out there a little further out. Based on what our tides are doing and what they're going to be doing, when we get a really good, strong cold front that's going to bring some cold air with it, it's going to start pushing that water out of here. And that's when we'll start seeing a significant tide change. These types of areas are areas that you're going to want to target when that takes place. Number one, you've got protection from the north, northeast wind, northwest wind on this whole shoreline. So that's the number one thing that you want to be able to get to it. If you can navigate to it safely, that's a great plus. So once you get on there, you know that you're going to be protected, and you're potentially, as long as you've got bait working in the area again, you've got to have a food source for these fish. If there's no food source for there, then you're kind of spinning your wheels. So if once you indicate and that you've located some bait fish that are working in your area that you're wanting to fish, then go to town. Start working. Start pulling your down south out. Start pulling your knocking tails out. Pull out your little johns, your mirror lures. Start throwing soft dines, starting to come into play. Corky season. Again, corkies, you can chunk them year round, but most people throw them in the fall, in the wintertime when it's colder. The originals have become one of my favorites to throw during that time frame. A lot of people love the fat boys, floaters and sinkers. You've got the Double D that factors into that, and you also got the Soft Dine XL, and you got the Soft Dine, which is a smaller version of that. So those are all terrific baits as we're fixing to head into these cooler months. Again, the artificial game is only going to get better. If you've been throwing artificials, been listening to me talk about the artificial game, this is the prime time of the year for people that throw artificial. So the next 6 months are going to be spectacular for those particular baits. You're going to give yourself lots of opportunities working in different areas. Like these here, you find grass, you've got structure, you've got deeper potholes, you've got shallower edges, cuts, guts, again, pinch points, just what I mentioned in the last little session there. Those are all going to be major points of emphasis that you want to go and locate fish, locate bait working around there, because there's going to be fish that's going to be hanging in and around that. Work all the way down past this area, work the shale, work the shoreline here on Dunham all the way to the point. You've got lots of great opportunities. You've got deeper water, shallower water up and down this shoreline here. So it's just going to be, again, this is an area. You got the right wind for it, especially when it's coming out of the north, northeast, northwest like that. You can work it a couple of different ways. Again, majors and minors are always a major point of emphasis, especially during this time frame, either pre-front, post-front, either one. Those are all going to be points of emphasis that you're going to want to put into your fishing game plan, is the majors and minors. Over here in St. Charles, you got the East Pocket that's down in here. And one thing that you need to learn about need to know about the East Pocket area there, you got a bunch of shale as you come back through this little cut right through here. When you got a lower tide, it's going to be difficult for you to get your boat into that area unless you got an airboat or a really skinny water running boat. And even then, if you got those super low tides that come in and go right now, or that we will be having, that's just an area there that gets a little skinny and do a little damage to your hull if you're not careful. So just keep that in mind if you're going to fish up here in East Pocket. It's a great little wading area here, especially if you've got a south breeze, southeast breeze. It sets up really nice for you. If you've got the north wind, northeast wind, it can still set up for you. Just fish it just a tad bit different. Come on around, get up here off of Bird Point here, right across from the St. Charles boat ramp. This whole shoreline, all this area in here, you've got lots of different things that offer you. You've got good structure in here, terrific grass. There's been a lot of bait that's been working up in here. As you head toward Egg Point, again, you can work all this shoreline. You've got the little pocket that's right up here off this point. Continue to work the shorelines, wade those areas. If you don't want to get out and wade them, the one thing that's fixing to become in your favor, especially in St. Charles, is the water temps continue to drop as we have more cold fronts come in. Once that water temp gets below about 65 degrees, those alligators really start to pull out of that water, and they're really not too interested to be in it. It's better to be safe than sorry, but that's kind of my mark for me, is once I start seeing continuous water temps at 65 and lower, I feel pretty confident the fact that those lizards won't be hanging out in that water. So this is the time of year moving forward that I really start to focus in and around St. Charles Bay and work in lots of different areas, points. It's a great wintertime estuary. It's got lots of mud and grass and scattered shell that's in it. It's really that great time of year to take advantage of, because you can pull out some terrific redfish. You can find some really nice trout, flounder in here, black drum. So you get a nice little gamut of fish that are holding in and around in St. Charles estuary. So if you fished it a lot and you know a lot about it, then you know what I'm talking about. You already got areas that you like to target and to fish. I like this shoreline. I like to get up on Egg Point and wade that inside shoreline, especially with you got a south or southeast breeze. Then you got a great shoreline as you move down toward Boy Scout camp, all back down in there. That whole shoreline there lights up pretty good for the most part when you have a nice southeast breeze, maybe even a little bit of a west breeze. You can still be protected. Now, when you're going to fish it pre-front, post-front, you're going to have northeast wind, northwest wind. Then you're going to want to get up there, like in Cavasso, get up on that north shoreline as you head all the way to the back, toward where the little back lake mouths that dump out into the main part of St. Charles. That shoreline that's on the north side becomes a point of emphasis that you want to wade all that. Great mud back in there, good amount of grass and bait. So you can locate some fish that's back there. It's a much shallower area back there, so be aware of that. Be aware of what your tides are doing, especially if you're going to fish back in that area. Now, you can stay in the boat and you can work it and do what you want, because a lot of people do that. But again, this time of year moving forward, artificial baits is going to be king in a lot of these estuaries. You're going to be able to find a lot of good fish using that. When you get over to the opposite shoreline here, you can get up on this area here in the cow chip area. This whole shoreline here, it's got a nice little edge to it. You can fish that. That cow chip back lake, all that's nice and muddy. A little difficult to wade. You can wade it to a point, but then once you start getting to that edge where it's just really mushy, you might want to stop there and start working your way back just a little bit. This whole shoreline here, all out there in front of the Texas Parks and Wildlife there, the Big Tree Road, that flat there can be really good at times. But it's got a great amount of grass that's on it. And it just lights up when you find the bait working in there. You'll find some nice trout and redfish that are cruising up here on this. Again, the main baits that we've been throwing, it's been the Down South Originals, Twisted Tea, White Ice have been main ones that we've been throwing. And of course, in the Twisted Tea, Burner Shad, also in the Firecracker and Mud Minnow in the Burner Shad have been good. White Ice, Purple Rain in the Burner Shad as well. And then for the Knock and Tail, it's been the Heavy Metal, Greenback, Watermelon Red, which is a 3 1/4 inch bait. There's another one that they have in 3 1/4 called Smoke, and it's a really good looking bait. It looks just like a little baby mullet. So if you haven't got a package of those, you might want to try them out. They've been pretty productive as well. And then, of course, our jerk shrimp. If you like throwing shrimp under a popping cork, that's a great one to get, because it really looks just as realistic as it gets, and also has a lot of little factors to it that makes it really effective and very productive for you. Again, Little Johns, you can't go wrong with them. So Watermelon Red, one of my favorites have become the Golden Red Glitter in the kitchen sink. So it's got a lot of yellow and gold and black glitter in it, but it's a translucent bait. For that more darker water, then you may want to go to the Watermelon Red, which has always been very productive in that. So just keep those in mind. And again, the majors and minors are key emphasis in any of these fishing areas that you're fishing coming up these weeks.